Thanks for joining us on West Country Women, the new podcast with Alexis Bowater. Celebrating everybody's business and showcasing women across the West Country region. If you're listening, please follow and rate us 5 stars. Or if you're watching, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Produced and supported by Fresh Air Studios.
How many of you have actually been in a studio before?
No, never.
Studio as impressive as this was.
Definitely not as impressive.
No.
Is this remind?
This is exciting.
Yeah,
it's exciting. Yeah.
Remind you of anything?
Yes. Vaguely. Yeah. Something. Yeah. The colour purple. Yeah.
So just because we're doing a podcast, and obviously for me to check all my records. Just introduce yourself to me, please, Sarah.
Sarah.
Like I don't know you.
I am Sarah Newberry from the YMCA.
What did you win?
I won Employee of the Year.
I don't.
Still can't believe it.
And I'm Fiona and I won the Best Supporting Act.
I'm Francesca, Hampshaw, so we won Business Leaders of the Year.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. So we won Business Leader of the Year as Peaky Digital. We're a digital marketing agency based in Cornwall.
Brilliant. Before I say anything else, tell me your memories of the night very quickly. And also, Sarah, what happened to your earrings?
Oh, the earrings. First of all, the earrings. So first of all, it was an amazing night.
Yeah.
It was just ultimate glitz, glamour, sparkles, everything that we all wanted it to be, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It had a slight error on stage, added to the shock that I actually won. When I walked up on stage, my earrings fell out. Just a random act.
Yeah. We like that kind of thing. No. I'm very forgiving. That's it. I didn't notice it happening. You covered it up really well.
Yeah.
Did you find your earrings?
I had to bend down on stage to pick them up.
Did any of you actually notice that? So exciting. Was that because they were pure diamond?
Oh, I wish because they were pure diamond.
Maybe just thought you were doing like a little bow or something, just kind of like smooth.
Yeah, curtsy.
Yeah,
yes.
Just kind of,
To the audience.
Yeah, I fell to my knees in front of you, literally. Literally fell to my knees.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It was a good night. Do you remember it? Or was it a bit of a swell?
Yeah, well, we were really unfortunate that we missed it.
Yes, of
we
course.
were, but
yeah.
it looked absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
We are really excited. If we can come back next year, or even just as supporters, because it just looked like an absolutely wonderful event. So we were unfortunate to miss it with children and babies and things like that.
Babies,
and yes. So, but it looked like an absolutely wonderful evening, full of wonderful, inspiring women as well.
Do I think what's nice what you said as well earlier on is about people that you didn't know was just coming up and congratulating each other.
Yeah.
It's just everybody was just mutually happy for each other, weren't they? It's really nice.
And you feel in awe of the other women that have won awards, and you think, well, why have I got this award? Because there's so many outstanding people in this room that have done, in my opinion, much better things than I've ever achieved. And so when they then come up to you and start talking, you're quite taken aback.
Yeah.
That's my overwhelming memory of it, being taken aback by people coming up to me afterwards and wanting to talk to me rather than, and I actually wanted to talk to them.
Do you think that that's something that these awards make, what's different about these awards for you guys? You've been to plenty over the years.
Yeah.
I think these awards in particular make you feel so special. And even if it's something quite small you're contributing to society, it is valued. And that's what I certainly got from it. But
I think I've been blown away by the different types of awards as well. Often when you go to awards, therefore really stand out. Things that really stand out as achievements, not to say that, I think what's nice is the day-to-day achievements aren't always recognised. So I think with these awards, the day-to-day things that people are doing are recognised, as well as those bigger business achievements as well. But with other awards, sometimes it's only those bigger ones that are recognised, but not day-to-day heroes really. And when we did like the winners lunch and things like that, the array of different people that were there for very different reasons, different roles, different roles that they play in communities and things like that. It was really nice to see that was recognised. I think that was the big thing for me.
I think the awards were needed, weren't they, as well? I think women wanted to be recognised for the efforts and the work that they've been doing in every industry and everything that we're doing, really.
It's interesting you say that, Sarah, because some of the feedback that we've received is that people were so enthused and relieved and empowered to see a room full of women who are being recognised for what they do in their life, and that room was packed not just with winners but with nominees as well, which kind of moves into this question of how important do you think is it to still have female role models visible and front and centre in the way that you very much now are, because you're award winners?
From my perspective, I do a lot of work with young women, as in 16 to 19-year-olds, so young girls coming through, going into adulthood. And I think it's really good that they can see now actually real people that they speak to on a daily basis, moving on to success. So they get to hear about these sort of things that are going on. I think young people now, particularly in the areas that we work in, so we work in underdeprived areas, they need inspiration. They need those role models to guide them and sort of show them that actually this is what good that you can do just for yourself, but for everybody else as well.
Yeah. Do you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need to come from a moneyed background or have got a degree or to thrive in life. And you've got to have somebody sometimes behind you supporting you and a drive. But I think if you've got role models like Sarah, who is involved
yourself.
They can see that, particularly if they know your back history. So I was brought up by a very strong woman who brought up 3 children on her own, and she was ended up being a nursing superintendent of a hospital, and she drove into us the importance of standing on your own 2 feet, getting an education, and do the best you possibly can. And when my mum got on and effectively did very well, it was quite unusual back then to be doing so well as a woman and bringing up 3 children on her own. So that's where my drive comes from, but where her drive came from, I don't know.
Your mum was obviously your
role model,
your absolute principal role model. And I think that this is an interesting and important conversation to have, particularly with women, because my sense is that we do need female role models, and whether we know it or not, we will have had one or many. Did you have a female role model?
I actually come from a footballing background. So I used to play football in what feels like a past life now. But I, as a junior, as a young person at primary school, I was the girl playing with all the boys. And what's interesting for me is probably because of that, and I was so interested in football, that most of my football role models were men. And one thing that's lovely to see now is that girls have female football role models. And I think that message kind of goes through all different industries, whether it's sports, whether it's like what Peaky do, where we are a tech company, a digital company, and which is a more male dominated space. And Natalie does not kind of speak about it as much as she maybe should, because she just cracks on and she's just a brilliant hard worker and thinks nothing of it. But she has done incredibly well to carve out an agency in a more male dominated space, where the majority of these of agencies are still male run, male directors, so she's done incredibly well to kind of hold her own in that space. So me growing up, you always say like your mum, absolutely. My mum was a teacher, a nurse. I think she did pretty much everything under the sun, and helped my dad do his business as well, which is one of those incredible things about women. They just can do everything. So I think I had multitudes of different role models for different reasons, but I think it's so important now. And having a young son myself, I see how important it is that he sees powerful women that are in these roles, that are working hard, that are holding their own in spaces, that are achieving what they want to achieve. And it's really important for him as much as it is for the ladies as well, and those young girls, because they're going to be, hopefully they're going to be supporting these ladies as well, and holding them, to say, yeah, look how amazing, my friend's done, or look how amazing this person's done, and rather than kind of putting any barriers in the way. So I think it is as important now as it was 15 to 20 years ago to keep having those positive role models.
And it interests me what you're saying about being into football.
Yes.
Why? What was the barrier for you to make that your career?
Lots and lots of things. So the generation that's probably just been successful now, that has just started to see that success. If you kind of hear their stories, are very similar to my own of having to wear boys' kits, which I was tiny, so I it's this huge t-shirt, these huge shorts, and it was often passed down from the boys' team, which, as you can imagine, teenage boys and teenage girls,
completely different shape.
It didn't look great. And so there were barriers, and I think there was still not. I think the main thing was people didn't say that could be a career. That was the main thing. It's not that people said you can't do it, but people didn't say you can do it, which is an interesting thing. It's not that people were openly saying you can't do this. It just wasn't spoken about as, you can do this. These are your options. This is what you can do. This is how you can go down this path. And I think that's probably the same for lots of different careers, isn't it? For maybe ones that women are still trying to fight their way into. It's not that they're being told they can't. It's not being told they can.
So it's interesting, isn't it, that you went from something you were passionate about, where you hadn't been told you can, into a career in tech, basically, where famously women are not told they can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you at Peaky Digital, you won Employer of the Year, which means that you are doing something different, and you're doing something really special. So what is that?
At Peaky, so Natalie started it, as I say, and her the co-director now, India, joined her about 6 months to a year after that, and we've just really steadily grown the business around core values, which is, good communication with people, reaching out to communities, working, being passionate about working with lots of different businesses. We're passionate about the team, which, I think is why we won the award. I was the third person to join Peaky, and Natalie's energy, her enthusiasm, her kindness is just really evident, and I think that's why the team has flourished, because she genuinely cares about the people that work with her.
It's interesting though, because you're talking about these sort of so-called soft skills are actually the hardest and most successful skills that we actually have.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It is those core values that really have then inspired the rest of the team as well to follow that lead. And it's a really it's almost like a gentle leadership, but a really powerful one, because she just naturally sets a really good example that people naturally want to follow. And I included, when I first started working at Peaky, was overwhelmed by how professional she was, but also how kind she was, how empathetic to just people having lives outside of work as well, caring about people's mental health, but also caring about the clients.
It's very zeitgeisty, isn't it? I mean, it's real forward thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and she really was a trailblazer for that in that space, because like I say, it's still quite a male dominated role, and it was off the back of an experience that she had in her previous work that really inspired her to have a completely different type of agency where people did feel cared about, and that you weren't just another employee, but you were a vital part of the team. So and absolutely, when you look at everything she's achieved, as well as the team that Natalie's built, and India as well, you can see why they would have won that award.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we're starting to talk about really sort of real pivotal moments in people's lives, these sort of Damascus moments when you flip from one thing to another, or sliding doors moments.
Yeah.
And you know, Fiona, you kind of had that, didn't you? So you had, and I remember you referencing this in your speech, which was really powerful and quite emotional on the night, that you went from one thing that absolutely inspired you to set up another. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So I worked in Devon and Cornwall Police. I think the total was 23 years, 9 months. Always wanted to do it. All my family are nurses, cousins are nurses, you know, so it was interesting move as part of the family to join the police, but I always wanted to do it. And I can remember from primary school onwards wanting to do it. It was one of the things I wanted to do. And when I joined the police, there were only 2 women accepted in the year in my take-up.
What year was that?
That was, I joined in 1990.
Wow.
So there were 2 of us, and we were put on separate training kind of courses. So I went to Hampshaw as the only female from Devon and Cornwall in my group. The rest of them were men. And so very quickly throughout my probation, obviously, became a detective, worked on the child abuse units and things like that. But what I didn't take into account is along the way, it would affect my mental health.
Yeah.
And so eventually I was pensioned out. It is a job that I absolutely loved. And you are left feeling quite ashamed at the time. I don't know, it's how I felt at the time, ashamed because I wanted a career. I didn't want to leave. And then you kind of reflect and say, what else can I do?
Why did you feel ashamed, Fiona?
Because I felt weak. That it's something out of my control, my mental health, and I felt really weak, and I still don't think it was understood.
But it's obviously surprising that you felt like that, doing the job that you did with the people that you were doing it.
I mean, think the unthinkable, and you're still not there with, you know, some of the child abuse cases that I've dealt with, and I used to respond to adults who had been sexually assaulted, sort of as a sexual offences officer. So you would never talk to other people about it because you don't want to cause them trauma as well. So it is think the unthinkable, but it was, and it sounds a bit cheesy, it was a vocation. And I didn't want those skills to go to waste. And I would have people who would approach me for advice about domestic abuse or historic child abuse and things like that. And I found I was still giving advice and then putting it to and then so about a year in, I set up my own business, but also was involved in a joint business to do with safeguarding as well. And that's been my passion, really. Now I feel like everything I've learned as a practitioner, I can then impart my knowledge in training or consultancy, which is what I do now.
Yeah, in an incredibly difficult field.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, there's things aren't black and white, and you're dealing with grey areas. You've got incomplete information, so you don't want people to make mistakes. So it's all about balance and risk and doing the right thing.
Yeah. So who comes to you? Is it people who don't feel they can go to the police? People who are confused, vulnerable?
I can give an example where. It was non-recent or historic child abuse, and they didn't feel they could go to the police. They didn't want to go to the police. They didn't feel like they would be believed for one reason or another. That's just their words, not mine. And so I gave her the confidence, but the problem was these people that were involved in her abuse were still alive. Yes. So then I had to kind of slowly talk to her about the fact that other children are at risk. So we did slow baby steps to eventually this person made a complaint, and it did end up in court, and there was a successful conviction, but it took a long, long time. It was a long road for them to get to that place.
It's particularly hard for you, isn't it? Because you're dealing with very, very vulnerable people.
Yes.
And if there was, so clearly we're having this conversation today, but this is among us. But if you were to try to get a message out to the people you're trying to reach in order to help, what would that be?
So you've got to speak to somebody. And if it's not the police, reach out to somebody like the NSPCC, Women's Aid. You really have got to speak to somebody, because what I've seen is two ends of the spectrum. I've interviewed goodness knows how many children that have been abused, and you couldn't put literally can't put a number on it. But on the other end of the spectrum, I've had to deal with adults who are first time talking about it in their 40s, 50s and 60s. And you can see that whole life timed out where they've got incomplete education, they're not able to hold down stable relationships, they're struggling with parenting, they're struggling with their mental health. You can see the massive impact on their lives. And for whatever reason, they, as children, they may not understand what's happening to them, or there may be some barriers to reporting it, and then it has that impact. And if my feeling about it all, it's all about safeguarding. The icing on the cake is actually a conviction. What you want to do is keep people safe and well, and if you can get to that point, that's the priority.
Then how do you do that? And do you do that in conjunction with organisations such as Sarah's? I mean, you must be dealing with people who are traumatised from early childhood trauma all the time.
Yeah, we do a lot of work with young people. Basically we deal with young children from sort of age of 2 up until the age of 19, and a lot of them are vulnerable young people. And we hear stories all the time about broken homes and people that have been in really bad situations.
Do you think there's a push for more trauma-informed care across the whole of society, to people understand this more? And when you're talking about the icing on the cake being a conviction, but actually the foundations of this all being better understanding, how do you think you would achieve that?
Not everybody wants their day in court. And I think you can't force people into a courtroom. I think a lot of people, survivors, will say, I just want to be safe and I don't want anybody else to suffer what I've suffered. And what you need to do is instilling confidence in them, what help and support they can get if they decide to go to court, and what is the benefit of that. And part of that is to prevent abuse to others.
Yes.
It's not just about, but you don't want to put them on the spot and make them feel guilty either. So it's a fine line, and it's down to what you were saying, good communication skills, rather than pointing the finger, you've got to do this because it's not fair to other children and things like that. You've got to focus on what the benefit is to them as well.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to make them more ill than they already are.
Yeah,
no, exactly.
Don't add that guilt complex onto it as well.
Make them feel bad about other people. We need to deal with their trauma first. You don't want to traumatise them further, so you need to make sure they've got those building blocks there to make them strong enough, help them be strong enough to move forward.
And people can contact you at Safeguarding Co at any time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there to investigate.
No. Okay.
I'm there as...
But you're an ex-detective.
Yeah.
So you know what you're doing.
I know what I'm doing, but what I am there to do is offer advice.
Yeah.
And I already do that to corporate businesses, for example, where you provide private consultancy, and then what you're doing ultimately is saying, well, this is a safeguarding issue, this is what I would be advising you need to do.
And so you will be dealing with young people all the time.
A lot. We deal with mainly 16 to 19-year-olds. We've got an education provision as part of it, but one of the things that the awards have really helped to push forward is which has been my personal biggest achievement, has been the mentoring programme. So as a result of the publicity from the awards and then the comeback from that is we recognise that a lot of young women, I'm saying young boys as well, but young women particularly, we did some research, and what it came across was that young girls are feeling quite worried about their future. So they're thinking about things like where they're going to go for their career, what they're going to do. They feel frightened to leave education and go into the big wide world. And I think what indicates to us is that although they're learning an education, they're learning about their key subjects, what they're not doing is they're not learning these life skills. You said about soft skills earlier on. Yeah. Young people aren't going into the world of work prepared.
What have they not got? What's going on?
Yeah, so they've not got the confidence, the knowledge, and I think COVID's had a big part to play in that. They've not taken part in meaningful encounters with employers and been involved in work experience. So as a result of the research that we did, we've now launched the largest mentoring programme for young children in the Southwest. Wow. And a lot of the people involved in West Country Women have now signed up to be mentors to these young people. Yeah,
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so it just means that, these young people who are vulnerable and perhaps don't have those aspirations at the moment, and we talked earlier on about, you had been told about jobs that weren't really available, when they were available to you not. Yeah. So these young people, it's about making them, by having that meaningful encounter with somebody, or some of the women that we've encountered through the process, having that chat with somebody about, this is what you can do, this is what your hopes and dreams are, let's find a way of getting you to where you want to be. Yeah. So
I would have loved that. When I was a teenager, I would have really loved somebody talking to me about my hopes and dreams. And I mean, I'm still we talk about generations, I'm way older than all of you put together. But certainly when I was 15 years old, what I wanted to do was shut down by my careers advisor, who said, you can't do that because it's a boy's job.
Yeah.
And what worries me is that I think that might still be going on.
I think it's still underlying, isn't it? It's still...
It's unconscious bias.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My nephew lived with me for a few years, and who is now doing his GCSEs, and no, he's not, sorry, he's doing his A-levels. And time is going too fast. But I have found that I am one of his kind of main people that he comes to talk about careers. Yeah. Because even now at school, they're not quite getting, unless it's something really kind of standard as a job role, teacher, doctor, and things like that, which is absolutely wonderful. But for him, he wants to go into maybe engineering, maybe something to do with Formula One. He's also looking at being a pilot, and that's incredible. He wants to be a pilot. He has had absolutely no career guidance so far at all. And it's a good school that he goes to.
And this is where your mentoring really
absolutely
would help.
It does. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you examples. So we had a student who was 17, and it was actually her 17th birthday, and she came into our office, just drops in every now and again to say hello, but she's got a mentor. And she confided in a mentor that on her birthday, 17th birthday, she got up, went downstairs on her own. Her mum had gone away.
On her birthday?
Oh. She sat there on her own on her birthday with no presents to open. But she had a mentor. So her mentor picked up on the fact that it was her birthday anyway. So the next time they got together, it's a silly little thing, but her mentor took her to Costa Coffee for coffee and cake. Yeah. Now, she'd never been to Costa Coffee before, but she felt like she was treasured. It's simple things, but one of the things that we've noticed that through the mentoring program that is really helping these young people is young people these days can't articulate and can't put into words. If you say to them, tell me about the best things, they will sit there and they'll give you all the bad things that they can do. I'm not very good at this, I'm not very good at that. But actually, by mentoring somebody, we're letting these people identify what skills they have got and what they're really good at, and it's building their confidence. They're going into employment now as a result of it, so it's making a big difference.
I think it's really important. I mean, I think it's very underrated, isn't it, the mentoring thing.
This is West Country Women. Thank you for joining us so far. If you want to learn about the awards, our community directory, or this new podcast, please head to westcountrywomen.co.uk. We're on all the social media channels too, at the Women Awards. You can find, follow and like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube and LinkedIn. And don't forget to follow and rate us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and like and subscribe on YouTube.
Right, now I'm going to do a time check.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to chuck us out.
Well done.
So, no, I'm going to be a good girl because I know that all of you did want me to ask you some questions. So I'm just going to run through those. And then I've got some I'm just going to scattergun you at the end. Don't be scared.
It's a laugh.
Don't be scared.
We're scared until you laughed.
Don't be scared. It's only me. So, Sarah, we've done a bit on your mentoring already, but you wanted to tell me what it meant to you to win the award.
Oh gosh, it was just overwhelming. I think the fact that somebody from another charity nominated me was just incredible. From the moment that email pinged in your inbox and you've been nominated, it's just the best feeling ever. And I do genuinely mean this when I say I did not expect to win, because there's so many wonderful people that were nominated throughout the whole process. But yeah, it's just, I think, I'm 48 years old. It's still nice to make your mum proud, isn't it? Mum was very proud about it. But it's just done so much in terms of, raise the profile of the charity that I work for, and given me just amazing confidence.
There were loads of people who'd brought their mums.
It's I don't know. It's That was 48 amazing. Years old, and I was still saying, "Mum, are you proud? Are you proud?" Yeah, she's really proud.
Did she say yes?
She did.
Oh,
yes.
good.
I was texting her on the night under the table, like, "Mum, I never guess what I've won it." Took a picture of the trophy. Yeah,
that's
been brilliant. It's been a really exciting journey. It was all just a whirlwind, and I think you probably agree. Saying it was all just kept snowballing from one thing to the momentum kept going and going and going, and it's still going on now.
Yeah,
so it's been brilliant.
That's interesting that you say that, because that's part of what we try to do. We try and make people feel special from the first moment that email lands in their inbox.
Yeah,
and I know you're all winners, but we kind of hope that you'd feel like winners from that first moment. But as obviously as a West Country Women Awards champion, would you recommend other people getting involved in this awards?
Oh my goodness, without a doubt. It's and I think it's about recognising. I think you touched on it before about the people behind the scenes that, not prominent figures in society that are out there all the time, but it's the people that are behind the scenes doing all the work, channeling all the work away, that you can just make somebody feel $1 million, genuinely. So why wouldn't you want to do that?
And you looked $1 million on the night.
Thanks. So we all did, didn't it? It's glam attack that night. It was great.
It
was great.
Sequins.
Yeah, everywhere.
Diamonds dropped on the stage.
Diamonds dropped. Had to mention that. Thank you.
I can't believe that. I can't believe you pulled it off as well. That's just like the most amazing cover up.
It threw me.
Well, we didn't notice. We absolutely didn't notice.
Thank you.
What do you most love about your role at the YMCA? Tell us that.
The fact that in the morning I could be doing something like this.
Yeah.
With lovely lilies like this, and then I get back to YMCA now, and then I'll have a student where I'll sit and I'll write a CV with them, and do some careers provision with them, and then this afternoon I could be sat in a garden with my elderly group, who we're working with to combat social isolation and loneliness, and having afternoon tea with Thelma, who's 94. So it's just the variation of the incredible people that I meet from all different levels, all different walks of life, and feel that I'm making a difference, genuinely making a difference to how they feel. They're not feeling lonely anymore. They're feeling a bit more inspired, aspirational, and just good.
Sounds like a good day to me.
It's good, and I get paid for it.
Yeah, brilliant. You do. Yeah. And quickly, challenges and plans for the future.
Challenges. I think we're all experiencing a cost of living crisis.
Yep.
People haven't got so much money to spend to donate to things like charity.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I think we'll all be experiencing at some point. And the plans for the future, I think, really are to keep riding on the crest of the wave of success at the moment, because it's just going so well. The profile's been raised incredibly thanks to the awards, and to be honest, it's been due to the awards. And it's making sure that we continue to get our name out there so that we can carry on impacting on everyday people and people in the community.
Brilliant. So very quickly and finally, because you did ask me to ask you this question, what has been your biggest success?
The biggest success was winning the award after being there for just a year. It was an amazing success, completely shocked. But yeah, the biggest success I think really has been creating the impact of bringing so many people together for a common cause, and that is just supporting, through the mentoring programme, but helping young people to get to where they want to be.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just don't sit back and relax because I've got some more questions here.
Okay.
Just not the ones you asked me to ask you. Fiona, I know that you wanted me to ask you a bit more about the night. I know you've covered it a little bit, but just, describe your experience of the awards last year, because I know it was I could see on the night, it blew you away, didn't it?
It did. I mean, I was overwhelmed, absolutely overwhelmed. I'm certainly not prepared for it, what to say or anything. And I think what I said on the stage was, it almost blurted out that to be recognised for what I've done, because I compared myself to others in the room, and I still didn't feel that I was worthy of that best supporting act. So that's what knocked me back. And then for these women to come up and talk to me afterwards was the biggest morale booster for me, really, and confidence booster for me. And I think the ladies here have already said it was made such a special evening, but the run up to it as well. And each stage was, oh, I'm in the semi-final now. Oh, yeah. How did that happen? I'm now in the final. And you still feel like, I personally felt like I didn't deserve it. They're far better women out there are achieving much more than me.
Has it sunk in now?
It has sunk in.
Have you accepted it now?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So if you now we've established that you've accepted it. Yeah, you are definitely a winner, and you definitely deserve it. What have you been up to since you won that award?
So I'm driving my own business, so to make life easier, rather than being involved and trying to be involved in two businesses. So running my own business and making some changes. So making sure that I'm not just focusing on training, but the consultancy side of it as well. Yeah. But things came to a bit of a halt fairly quickly. Like you said about your Sarah, my mum was incredibly proud to find out how I had won this award, and she was listening to it on Radio Devon the next day. I had to take the award to show her up in Barnstable. And she's nearly 86, and I go up there every week to care for her, do her shopping. And then she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So what I ended up doing was doing end-of-life care for her, because my previous job was a healthcare assistant with my sister. Things didn't go very well in hospital. So we got her out, and so I had to a degree, put a halt on things to concentrate on end-of-life care and then looking after her in her home. And so I'm just now back up and running again now. So it kind of brought it to a halt. Yeah. But it also has been another big driver for me to see how important it is to safeguard adults. Yeah. And you can see how people's care can be unconsciously neglected because people are so busy in hospitals, they perhaps don't realise people haven't washed or are drinking and things like that. And so... yeah, so I'm driving again with the help of Angie, my marketing lady. We're driving it on again. Yeah. Well, but I was still working around it, but I wasn't really driving it too much because that was my sole purpose.
You seem more driven now than ever before. More driven
because I think I saw it up front. Yeah. So I'm training dignity and care and safeguarding adults and the importance of dignity and care. And then I saw it up front. Perhaps people aren't realising that dignity and care aren't always being met. Yeah. So how that's... So I'm now delivering training to a particular hospital at the moment, and I talk about that from a personal experience, how quickly people's basic needs cannot be met, and you don't realise, because it's so busy, that people aren't maybe drinking, or they're not having a shower, or they're not being able to eat their food and things like that.
Yeah. Fiona, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, and I don't want to bring the atmosphere down. It was just for me to explain.
This is a wide-ranging conversation.
Yeah, it was for me to explain.
It's about drive, isn't it? You know, traumatic experiences in life can be your greatest drivers, can't they?
Yes,
and that lived experience, we're talking about that lived experience. You know, you have the experience of the thing you're teaching people about.
Yes,
haven't you?
And it comes from my police background, so I can kind of say to people, well, this, if you try rewording a question to a child or shortening a sentence, you're more likely, for example, to get an answer back. So, and I can say, because that's worked for me, and that's how I worked when I interviewed children. And the same with basic care of patients. That dignity and care is so important.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you're talking about this. It's a sort of theme that's been developing about, about values, about care for people, about being open-minded, about understanding about those soft skills. I know that you spoke before about the values of Peaky Digital. Just run me through a few of those that have stood out for you.
Yeah, of course.
You okay?
So,
Yeah, no, I'm fine,
so
honestly.
sorry.
No, I'm fine, honestly.
The values, that we stand by, and I think it's something that we try and do every day, that kind of go into our personal lives as well as our professional lives. And as I said before, it is communication. Yeah. It is things like transparency as well. So we're transparent with the work that we do. We're transparent with our clients. For our clients, they're like your businesses are. They're everything to them. They are, as Natalie and India's, this business is their baby. Yeah. Lots of other people's businesses are mean the world to them. So transparency is really important for us, because we want to really get involved with those people that run that business, and really know what their aims are and what their goals are, and being honest and transparent if how we think they can do that, and if that isn't with us, we're transparent with that. If we think actually there's different angles that you maybe need to go down before you work with us, or we really do strive to be honest. We offer a lot of different things at Peaky. We're a full kind of digital marketing agency, but we really are proud of the fact that we take into consideration lots of different things when we talk to people, their budgets, their type of business that they are, who they, what products they are and things like that. So that we really understand what they might need from us, rather than just trying to sell them a package of marketing that doesn't actually work for them. We're really proud of the fact that we almost feel like people's marketing team, an in-house team. It's something that people have enjoyed. That's why they enjoy working with Peaky, because
that's why you're winners. That's why you're award winners.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've just launched your own podcast, haven't you? How are they going?
It's going well.
Is it going well?
It's going, yeah. So we launched about a month and a half ago, and we're doing a kind of series, so it's not like a weekly. We've kind of got a series of ones that we've recorded, and it's with all different business leaders, different people in their specialisms, lots of different people, and we've really loved it actually. So it's nice to, we're kind of sat at our desks on a more daily basis and only speaking to each other. So it's nice to bring someone else in from another business and things like that, and learn about their business, and they can share their expertise. And it's been fantastic so far, and hopefully everyone has enjoyed listening to it. And it's not all just about digital marketing. It's about branding. It's about social media, it's about business. So there's lots of different angles that we go at. So,
it's quite fun. It's quite fun doing podcasts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not intimidating at all, and nobody's nervous anymore.
No.
Once you get started, it's fine.
That's your questions out of the way. Now for mine.
Wasn't prepared for this, but
No, it's not that complicated. Sarah. 12-year-old Sarah.
yes.
What advice would you give her?
I would say to her now, perhaps don't worry so much about what everyone thinks about you. I think that's a big thing, 12-year-old Sarah was worrying all the time about that. And don't be frightened anymore. Don't be frightened to just go for it. If you want to do it, just do it.
Fiona, what would you say to 12-year-old Fiona?
With what Sarah has said, don't be put off by what you want to do. And don't worry about it so much. Stop worrying so much and just believe in yourself.
12-year-old Francesca is going to hear these words. What would you say to her?
I'd probably have 3 different things. I think ask more questions.
Yeah.
Learn more about everything, and pick the brains of the people around you, because you probably have some fantastic people around you that you can, ask lots of questions, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to kick more doors down, and don't be afraid to take up space and kind of get your voice heard a bit more. So I think that's
a good one. I like that one. I like that one.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Write them all down. Rewind the tape. We'll listen to that again. And what's the book that you would pay it forward to anybody?
That's a tough question
That
as well,
is a
isn't
tough
it? That's a bit
question.
of...
All the books you've ever read, fun and not fun, fiction and fact. What stands out? What's just popped into your head?
There's a book that I've just read, and it is, as I say, my background is sport. We're a very sporty family, and my son's very much into sport, so we'll talk about this one. And it's called Champion Minded by Alistair McCaw, who is a motivational speaker. And it's an incredible book, actually, for children, but also for adults as well. I find myself, me and my son will read it together, and there's bits from it that I will take into the day. And it's just about having a positive mindset, how to challenge, certain situations, how to deal with certain situations, how to live your life, in a more positive way, and how to take positives from each different circumstance that you come to. And it's just, that's a fantastic book, and it's set out in a way that you can just read a small chapter or a small section and take one bit of advice from it for the day, or it just really settles your mind. My son's 13, so as you can imagine, there's lots of thoughts, and there's lots of things that they have to deal with on a daily basis, and it's just brilliant for, even if there's a section about being nervous. So if you're nervous about something, there's a section on it where it just tells you how you could deal with those nerves, whether it's like breathing techniques or things like that. And that's a fantastic book. So that would be my recommendation.
Fiona?
I'm ashamed to say I only read when I'm on holiday, and they've been a bit scarce recently. So I tend to spend, and this is where I need to change the way I work, is what I read is what I'm researching for.
Oh, that's fair enough.
For my business. So by the time I get to bed,
so you're fact-based.
Yeah, it's all fact-based. If I am reading, it's always crime thrillers.
Yeah.
I don't like romantic.
Is Patricia
kind of
Cornwell she's a big one, isn't she? I used to love her.
But I just love anything to do with crime and thrillers.
Come on, I can see you've been really thinking about this.
I have been really thinking about it. So there's oddly enough, I met this lady about 2 weeks ago for the first time in a meeting. So there's a lady called Cindy Wilcox. She's quite Cindy. So she wrote a book about her experience. She's a local lady, but she's written a book, Draw a Heart Around It. Yeah. Which is about her experiences, through a lot to do with care as well. Yeah. She's a previous nurse. But just any book, really, that will just make you feel hopeful. Yeah. I believe in reading happy books. Yeah. So a bit like a bit of a romance as well. But I like to read a book that you put it down and you think, that makes me happy inside.
I love that. Right, I've jotted them all down. We've got a final little job for everyone to do. Okay, so here we go. Right, take a question out the pot.
Okay.
And then ask somebody around the table.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can choose.
Okay.
Go, Sarah.
Okay.
Who's this to?
This is to you. I'm putting you on this one. We've got chocolates. Right. So,
I love this.
I'm worried about the fact that it says 100. How many questions have you written?
Oh, loads.
Right. If you had to live in a video game, which one would it be?
That's a very interesting.
Do you know, I'm not very good on these video games because I've never really got into computer games because it was because I knew that I would be addicted to them instantaneously that I would spend my whole life playing them. Yeah. So I don't really know any apart from the originals. And the one that I probably would get stuck in is the one that they made that film about, the Donkey Kong one, where you go along and you jump over flaming barrels and you do that. So it's simple enough, right, for me to understand it, all right, but fun enough for me to think that I'm doing something, Well, it's the jumping over flaming barrels is kind of the story of my life.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So thank you very much. Well, I've got my questions out of the way. Come on then. They're all going to be to me now, aren't they?
You should say before you do this next time. You cannot ask me.
You're going to do it to me. Okay.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, my guilty pleasure. What is my guilty pleasure? I think anything sort of watery based in that. I think I secretly always would have liked to have been a mermaid, but never had the time. So and also that I have a slight problem in that I don't like cold water. But whenever
Could be a barrier.
Yeah, a barrier. Whenever I have enough free time to do stuff like paddleboarding, so stand-up paddleboarding, I learnt later in life when I was older, and things like sailing. I always wanted to learn to sail, and I'd never done that. But a month ago, I went off and I learned how to sail.
Oh,
so
well done.
I'm now in competent crew. The certificate says competent crew. I know the truth. All right, and so would anyone if they let me on their boat. So please, if anyone wants to let me on the boat and make me more competent, that would be great. So that is, that's my guilty pleasure. Watery based activity.
I could see you as a mermaid, by the way. You'd be very good, mate. I could see you as
but
a
only
mermaid.
in warm water.
In warm water.
Like no cold water activities with this mermaid.
So my question is quite similar to the one you've just...
Doesn't have to be to me, you can just...
So I'm not going to ask you this one. And I'm going to pass it over to both of you.
Okay.
What are you passionate about outside of work?
Nice.
I'm going to look at each other and go, and take a breath.
Mine's sport. Any type of sport.
Yeah.
And it drives my husband up the wall because I'll do step aerobics, golf. It just goes on and on. I can't help myself.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I've got to say, I'm a bit of a organiser, it's like social organiser. So in where I live, I am the person that will organise the street party.
Nice.
Yeah, or
Everyone needs a
or the
gig.
street, or the street get together. And then even in my group of friends, I'm like the group organiser. So it's like, right, when we are getting together at this date. Yeah, this is what we're going to do. So yeah, I am the social event organiser. What about you?
Oh, well, yeah.
She's back on that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, sport. Sport
Is it
is
sport?
absolutely. Yeah. I do have a creative background, which is why I ended up in digital marketing as well. So I do on occasion still get my paints out because after school I went to Leeds College of Art and Design, which is where I kind of got my love of marketing and all of those bits. So yeah, occasionally I get my paints out, and that is like a nice therapy for me as well.
I bet.
So,
Relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of, small passion. There's just a bit of doodling or anything like that. Yeah.
That's lovely to know. This is all lovely to know. But we've come to the end.
Thank you.
You're not
Thank
looking
you
so nervous now, are you?
No.
Yeah, you actually quite enjoyed it. Come on,
it's
own
been
up.
really good.
Yeah.
It's been really good.
So
Yeah,
for
thank
me,
you. Makes me feel relaxed.
what I'd like to say is thank you for doing this. Thank you for sharing your public lives and your secret lives with me. Would you, and congratulations as well on being West Country Women Awards winners.
Thank you.
Would you suggest to anybody that they get involved in this?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's either way through nominating somebody, absolutely, or, being involved in any way that you can. If you can just make somebody feel a fraction of how brilliant we're all feeling, then absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, just to be an ambassador of it, be someone who shares about it on social media, or, like you say, get involved.
Motivate somebody else.
Motivate someone else to get involved, vote for somebody. Absolutely, it's been brilliant.
Well, I'm really, really grateful for your time this morning. It's been lovely seeing
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
And let's go and have a cup of coffee. Another one. Okay, ladies, come on. I'll follow you out.
Thank you.
If you want to find out more about the West Country Women Awards or nominate someone for next year's ceremony, visit westcountrywomenawards.co.uk. The West Country Women Podcast was presented by Alexis Bowater. Copyright West Country Women Awards CIC. Produced and supported by Fresh Air Studios.